So welcome back to another rebuild here on NBA 2K24 Next Gen. In today's video, we're going to be continuing with the off-season rebuilds. Of course, we have done all of the teams so far. Today's video is a bit of a hypothetical and something that I think is certainly a possibility. It's going to be a Utah Jazz rebuild, but we're trading Lauri Markkanen. Now, Lauri Markkanen is currently 27 years old. He's clearly the best player on the Utah Jazz, but he's also an expiring contract after next season. Now, in about 10 days or so, he is eligible to sign an extension with the Utah Jazz, and while that's certainly a possibility, I think it makes a little bit more sense for them to maybe consider some trade offers. I've already put a trade through here today in 2K. We're going to go ahead, talk about that in just a second, but I'm assuming there's multiple teams that are going to be involved, right? Who wouldn't want a 7-footer that can space the floor, who is currently on a very, very cheap contract, and is ultimately maybe that second or third option that a team would need to win a championship? So I think it could also make sense for them to keep him. I just think from a timeline perspective, maybe the Jazz are 4 or 5 years away from competing. Why not go ahead and get some young value right now, some draft picks, some other assets? I'll show you guys the trade. And of course, as always, let me know any other video ideas down below in the comments section. You guys can let me know whether you want me to continue with the prospect rebuilds or these hypothetical trades or whatever it may be, because as I mentioned in a couple videos already, we're kind of at the point in the offseason where things are, kind of slowly winding down, right? There's probably not many blockbuster trades left. There's no major free agent signings coming, and unless, something crazy happens, which of course it very well could, we're going to have to work a little bit for the next month plus to find some content for 2K25. So anything you guys really want to see over this next month plus before 2K25 does come out, let me know in the comment section. All right, we got some work to do today with the Jazz. Let's get into it. Now, I want to specify before we get into this rebuild, this is not a prospect rebuild. This is not, a Cody Williams or Isaiah Collier, Kyle Filipowski. By the way, the Jazz did fantastic in the 2024 NBA draft, but this is just a normal 3-year rebuild. The prospect rebuild for the Jazz is going to be coming out eventually once we get to the 10th overall selection. You get the point. All right, let's go ahead and talk about the trade I put through. As I mentioned, there were probably, and probably will continue to be, many suitors who are interested in Lauri Markkanen. Now, due to multiple reports, seems like the Golden State Warriors seem to be the most interested team right now, and they certainly have some of the young talent and some of the draft capital that maybe Utah could be looking for. The only problem is kind of finding that middle ground where both teams are both teams are able to accept the trade. So I'll just show you guys what I put through. Of course, it's not exactly the most realistic option, and let me explain to you why I did this trade the way I did. Oh, good, you can't even see the full thing. It was Moses Moody, Brandon Podziemski, Gary Payton's in here to make the money work. It is a 2025 first-round pick unprotected and a 2027 first-round pick unprotected as well. That is the deal that I currently have through. Again, I do not know if the Warriors are willing to give up 2 of 3 of Moody, Podziemski, and or Kuminga. I think there is certainly a lot of, ground to make up there if a possible deal is going to come true, but this is a deal that kind of makes sense from both sides of a long-term picture, right? The Warriors are kind of going all in right now. Maybe they want to maximize that 2, 3, 4-year window they have left with Steph Curry being a really, really good player. And of course, Utah's looking ahead to the future, some draft picks, some young talent. I think it makes a little bit of sense on that front. So again, I know there's going to be many teams interested. Danny Ainge is a professional at driving up the price in terms of players, but this is the one we decided to go with here today. You like it, you love it, you don't like it, it is what it is. We are now going to talk about this Utah Jazz team and kind of how we've now reconstructed this roster a little bit. I used reconstructed, of course, lightly. So Keyonte George, 20 years old. Isaiah Collier, only 18 years old. Certainly going to be my 2 point guards I work with here for year 1. Not exactly sure if either of them will be starting the entire time today, but I think the sky's the limit for both these young men. Here at the shooting guard spot, Colin Sexton is another name I know could certainly be floated around this offseason. Not an expiring contract like Markkanen currently is, but he probably has some interest from some contending teams that maybe did not do so well this offseason, aka a team like the Lakers or somebody like that. Jordan Clarkson, also a name that makes a whole lot of sense to be shipped out elsewhere, but apparently there's not a lot of interest in Jordan Clarkson right now. I know he wasn't super efficient last year, and he's certainly at the age right now where it doesn't really make sense for him to be continuing through a rebuild. So we'll figure that out. We got Brandon Podziemski obviously in this deal. I know it's going to be a really, really tough sell and a tough ask from the Utah Jazz to actually acquire him, but in my opinion, he is the main piece you would be kind of getting back in this deal. A really good rookie season last year, and I think he is going to be really good for quite some time. What pick was he, by the way? He was 19 overall. Okay, that's what I thought. Or not what I thought, but I knew it was like around there. Gary Payton is not going to be here long term. He was literally in this trade to literally just, I said that twice. He was only in this trade to make the money work. Now, if they were to include him in a deal, I think it's likely possible that maybe he is a buyout candidate. The Utah Jazz are professionals at buying players out. Johnny Juzang ended up re-signing with the Jazz on a 4-year contract. I'm not exactly sure what we're going to do with him. Obviously, there is a lot of depth in front of him at this point in time, but we'll see. Small forward spot, Moses Moody was one of 2 young players coming back in this deal. Of course, only 22 years old. We want to see how much we can grow with him. Of course, I do have to be somewhat careful because I like Cody Williams, and although this isn't a Cody Williams prospect rebuild, I am interested to see how he can play for us today in the 3 years. Bryce Sensabaugh also here, 20 years old. Not really sure what his role will be now that Moody is here, but certainly still a nice young piece to have on this team. Then the power forward spot, certainly interesting right now. Taylor Hendrick was the 9th overall pick in last year's draft. Of course, did not get the greatest opportunity in his first season, but now he kind of has that, right? Markkanen's gone. He's out of the equation. Maybe a little more playing time for Hendricks here. We got Filipowski as well, who was, 32nd overall pick? Yes, he was the 32nd overall pick. So, to be honest with you, I'm probably going to play Hendricks and Filipowski. I don't really think Darius Bazley is a long-term solution for me, but we'll figure it out. Walker Kessler is another guy whose name has kind of been in trade talks. I don't know why I thought Walker Kessler was pretty good. He's only 23. It's not like, he's some 30-year-old veteran who is not going to be here for the long term, or at least could not be here for the long term. So I don't know. I think he's the best center they have on their roster right now. I'm not super high on John Collins. They brought in Drew Eubanks on a 2-year deal, and I'm pretty sure Kenny Lofton actually already got released, but we'll sort it out. I'm not done making trades. Let me tell you that. My goal right now is to acquire as many draft picks as possible, and we'll just go from there. I'm sure you're already all aware of this, but I just want to preface this first trade we're making here by letting you all know that this is not a realistic rebuild, okay? Glad we're all on the same page. I don't know why the Atlanta Hawks are interested in bringing back John Collins, but any deal that's going to net me a draft pick is certainly going to be one that I am interested in. I'm not super interested in Clint Capella, but he can also be another trade piece for me, or he can be a backup center. I don't really care. I am really doing this deal so I can acquire Atlanta's unprotected first in 2028. So that is trade 1. It might be a few more moves than we initially kind of anticipated, but let's just keep rolling with the punches. The market for Jordan Clarkson not only is bad in real life, apparently, it's also pretty tragic in 2K. Now, I'm not exactly thrilled to take a deal like this with Miami. I'm going to actually try to get a first-round pick out of them, but I'm confused. Oh, that was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. I don't know. I wasn't trying to be super realistic, but out of all of the deals that maybe I could have considered, I guess that wasn't the worst one. Ultimately, humanly possible. So Duncan Robinson is not going to play for me, but I certainly will take the draft pick from the Heat. This deal with the Lakers is going to be a 1-for-1 player swap. The good news for us is that Gabe Vincent has an extra year on his contract, meaning he's another tradable asset down the line. I was never going to bring in Gary Payton in this deal as a long-term option, and ultimately we move him to a team like the Lakers, where for whatever reason they're interested in this swap just 1-for-1. So cool with me. And after a few trades, we have finally arrived at the start of year 1. The rotation is finalized. I think the best way it's going to be just for a year 1 that's likely not going to be very good, right? We have an interesting dynamic with this team where almost some of our higher overalls just aren't getting minutes, which is certainly strange, but when we're, trying to embrace the tank a little bit, at least for year 1, it does make sense. It's Keyonte George, Colin Sexton, Moses Moody, Taylor Hendricks, and Walker Kessler as your 1 through 5. I don't know if anybody's surprised by any of those guys in the starting lineup, but that's the way we're doing it. But Jemski will be my 6th man off the bench. You got Cody Williams behind him. Clint Capella is going to be one of the veterans we have on this team actually getting minutes as he backs up Mr. Kessler. We got Isaiah Collier getting backup point guard minutes, and Filipowski as the backup power forward. So there are a lot of guys behind Filipowski here, like a Darius Bazley or a Gabe Vincent, Drew Eubanks, Bryce Sensabaugh, Duncan Robinson. All of these guys probably do deserve minutes on some sort of an NBA team. Just a little bit different when we're, and on the path that we currently are. So I will see you guys at the end of year number 1. 35-47 is the record we wrap up our first season here in Utah with. Again, all things considered, it's not terrible. This certainly could have been a 22-24 win team, but 35, certainly something to work with as we head forward. Luka Doncic, a damn near 35-point triple-double. You can ignore that. Russell Westbrook, Victor Wembanyama. These awards are basically the same every time I do one of these rebuilds on this shared file. So let's dive into the standings. Let's see where we are at. We are not a playoff team. We finished as the 13th. Oh, my God. Both of these are supposed to be competitive teams in the West, and they were below us. Okay, let's go over some of the numbers. Of course, we had a lot of young guys playing. Colin Sexton was our leading scorer. Keyonte George was fantastic for us at our point guard spot. Moses Moody emerging nicely as a third option. Cody Williams, maybe showing he should be in the starting lineup, right? Look at those numbers. That was off the bench in what what was he playing, 18 minutes, something like that? That's impressive. Walker Kessler was a double-double. Hendricks, Podziemski, Collier, Capella, and Filipowski. Rebounds were led by Kessler, and assists was Keontae George. So clearly we're not going to be participating in the playoffs here in year one, and that's fine. That was ultimately our goal. And now it is time to kind of turn up the heat a little bit, if you will, and hopefully get this team a championship. Dallas Mavericks end up going back to the finals. This time they win it all, and Luka Doncic is your finals MVP. All right, some player retirements. There are certainly some notable names, staff retirements, Hall of Fame inductees, jersey retirements, good God. And now it is time for probably the biggest moment of this video so far for us. We are projected the 7th overall selection. Let's see if we stay there, move up, or go down. And we fall down. Okay, only one spot to number 8. Not the end of the world, but it's just 2K doing what they do best. I like Will Hardy. I think Will Hardy's a good head coach. I'm not sure what his ratings look like here in 2K, but, well, he's right here. It's actually pretty good. I can work with that, right? 3 stars of both offense and defense, and the potential's at 4.5. That's cool with me. We'll hang on to Will Hardy, bring him back. Of course, we haven't exactly set him up for any sort of coaching success, so we'll keep him on, for now. If we have a really bad season, we'll go from there. Warriors pick landed at number 20. Of course, that was from the Lauri Markkanen deal, and then I have no idea. Is this... You know what? It's probably from the Donovan Mitchell trade. That would make a whole lot of sense. All right, so 3 first-round picks. Number 8 overall is certainly one of the better trade assets I would say we have on this team right now. I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do with all 3 of these selections. I'm certainly not making 3 draft picks, right? We had legitimate NBA players like Duncan Robinson, Darius Bazell, those guys not even getting minutes. What am I going to do with somebody I drafted number 20 or 28 or whatever the hell it's going to be? So hang with me. We're making a deal here with the Phoenix Suns. We're going to land a pick swap in 2026 and a second-round pick as well for our number 20 overall selection and 29 in this year's draft. Ultimately, I didn't really need these picks. If I can have a future asset that may end up being somewhat valuable, I'll certainly use it. So we are going to keep the number 8 overall pick, though. I'm not exactly sure who I'm going to be taking here. Doesn't really matter. It's going to be tough to really get anybody serious playing time no matter who it is. I think Trey Johnson or Jalil Bethea makes a whole lot of sense for us just from a kind of a need perspective. I've drafted Trey Johnson before, and I've had some pretty notable success with him, I feel like. He's going to be my guy. Not exactly sure what his role is going to be on this team. He's a 76 overall. It's completely cool with me. All right, we are going to bring back everybody because now we are in the offseason, and of course, in a non-realistic sense, we can trade all of these players. We can make their contracts work to match up their money, whatever it's going to be. Also have Moses Moody as a restricted free agent, certainly somebody we're going to look to extend, and him and Clint Capella are kind of our 2 free agents right now. So should we just go back out and just re-sign Lauri Markkanen? How funny would that be? This isn't the most elite free agency class that's, I've ever seen in my life. You got Kyrie, you got Jimmy. I know we're now in a 2-year window of trying to win a championship, so maybe they make a little sense for us, but Kyrie's going to go back to Dallas. Looks like Jimmy's just going to go back to Miami. So I don't know. I don't really see a whole lot of, reason to go out and kind of force the issue right now. So what we are going to do is bring back our guys. I'm going to bring, certainly going to bring back Moody. Only wants about $13 million annually, and then Capella's asking for about 23. I'm just going to let him go. Honestly, I am. I think I'd rather have the cap space, to be completely honest with you. Maybe that's, not the smartest decision, but it's the decision we're going to land on. So bringing back Moses Moody, Clint Capella is now free to walk. Now it is time to get into some bigger deals. I'd love to add Darius Garland to this team. I know what you're thinking. You're probably saying you already have Keontae George. Well, I would just move Keontae George to the 2 guard. He's 6'4". It's fine. Darius Garland would certainly be a nice upgrade in this lineup. And although Colin Sexton was really solid for us, he was our leading scorer last year, I need an upgrade, right? I can't just run this thing back into eternity for the next 2 years and kind of hope and pray that it works, because it probably won't. So let's make a deal, Cleveland. Darius Garland listed at 4 stars right now. Certainly an acquirable piece, right? He's not listed as untouchable or anything like that. There are ways. I think I'd also throw Sensabaugh on here just because he's probably not going to get any serious minutes. And then I do have some draft picks that I could maybe include. We do not have our own first, interesting enough. I would be maybe willing to sacrifice I'll just give you your pick back. How about that? I know this may seem like a lot to give up to land a guy in Jaren Jackson Jr. who is on an expiring contract, but we really have to kind of move quickly if we want to be actually competitive next season. Duncan Robinson was never going to play. He's in here to make the money work. Trey Johnson, who we did just draft at number 8, really didn't have a defined role in this team, right? There were a lot of guys ahead of him at that shooting guard and small forward spot. We're going to include him in this deal, hopefully get a former DPOY in Jaren Jackson Jr. And then Filipowski was just going to be out of the rotation. It was kind of, looking at the power forward spot, it was between him and Hendricks, whoever was going to be the backup here to Triple J, and I'm a little higher on Hendricks here in 2K anyways. So how about we make a deal? Still have some draft picks I'm certainly maybe capable of offering. I would give up the Miami Heat first round pick, and then Wow, I actually have a lot more draft picks than I thought I did. So how about just one more from us? Thank you. All right, excited to have Triple J here. He is now going to be my new starting power forward. Still going to be Moody and Williams. We obviously moved George to the 2, him and Pajemski. We have Garland. I'm going to still run Collier. And then I maybe wouldn't mind upgrading the backup center spot a little bit. I know this is, I don't want to say comical, but maybe a little funny considering I let Clint Capella, who, by the way, I still could re-sign, just kind of walk out the door. But maybe more interested in somebody. Naz Reid could be fun. He has one offer right now. It's from the Pistons. He's asking for about, well, kind of similar price tag to Clint Capella, but I think I'd rather give Naz Reid this money, to be honest with you. So, Naz? I'm going to trade Eubanks, and then I'll see you guys at the start of year 3. Year 2. We had a very interesting offseason here in Utah. We ultimately decided to add a couple new players to this team, a couple new stars in Darius Garland and Jaren Jackson Jr., and really kind of elevate the timeline of a 3-year rebuild, right? Of course, that's kind of the necessary evil when you are only doing 3 years, but it's what makes these rebuilds fun, right? You got to know when to strike. You got to get the right guy, and I think we did that. It is Garland, George, Moses Moody, Jaren Jackson Jr., Walker Kessler is our 1 through 5. Obviously, a few new faces in there. Got Pajemski, who will remain my 6th man. We brought in Naz Reid, who's going to be a fantastic backup center option. Still got Cody Williams, Taylor Hendricks still here, and then Isaiah Collier. So that is the team. We certainly have a little bit less depth now. I mean, we got like Shake Milton and Keziak Paula here instead of like Duncan Robinson and Darius Baisley and some of those guys, but it's fine. We don't need, 12th man not playing any minutes. Not really a lot of value there. So I will see you guys at the end of year number 2. We were looking to make a serious jump with the moves we made this offseason, and a serious jump is what we got. 57-25. We are firmly back in the playoff picture. Maybe even in the driver's seat. Luka Doncic, back-to-back MVPs. Cooper Flagg is a Chicago Bull. He's your rookie of the year. Cam Thomas, about 23.5 points a game. I don't know why you're having him off the bench. It's not like you're actually competing for anything. Another DPOY for Wemby. Craig Porter Jr., most improved. John Morant, clutch player of the year. Really? We won 57 games, and you're giving it to Rick Carlisle, not the guy who just, won 35 games a year ago. Now he wins, 57? I mean, come on, 2K. That's just stupidity at its fucking finest. Politics, man. All right, let's get into some numbers real quick. Darius Garland, our leading scorer. Jaren Jackson Jr. emerging as our second option. Keontae George still playing some very solid basketball for us. Moses Moody, Naz Reid, Pajemski, Kessler, Williams, Hendricks, and then Collier. Rebounds led by Kessler, and assists was Mr. Garland. All right, we're the 1 seed. Not something I thought we were going to be saying, but now we are here. Fred VanVleet seems to get traded to the Pelicans a lot. I'm not really sure how, considering how much money he's making, but that's neither here nor there. All right, we quickly go up 2-0. They do win game 3. We win game 4. And no. Thank you. Moving on to the Western semifinals. The Portland Trailblazers have now arrived. Interesting. Added Lonzo Ball to their team. A lot of depth there in Portland. All right, they steal game. Okay. Not what I was looking for. Oh, boy. All right, well, I mean, that Portland team is deep. I don't know if they were necessarily better than us, but good for you guys. Thunder win it all. SGA, your finals MVP. All right, LeBron, KD, Steph, all calling it a career. Wow, man, that is going to be a very sad day. And Russ, I didn't even see him. A very, very sad day if and when that does happen. Not if and when. It's obviously going to happen, but I mean when it happens. Draft lottery. I know we've traded a lot of draft picks. Are we projected anything in the lottery here? Oh, number 13 from Orlando. How is Orlando that bad? It's a surprise. It's fine. Good with Will Hardy. We did a good job. Should have been coach of the year, but, again, that's just 2K. Let's see what else we got. We have 13-24 in round 1 and then 7-12 in round 2. I'm actually going to trade these for more future draft picks. I know it might not be what people want to see, but there's a possibility that I just may need it if I want to swing a big trade at some point. So, sorry. Team player options here. George, Pajemski, Williams. This is just beautiful. All, half of our core right there locked in. Kessler is going to enter restricted free agency. I am certainly interested in bringing him back. And, of course, we have a little bit of money to spend, but we just have to kind of spend it on our guys. So, Jaren Jackson Jr., let's pay our front court here, him and Mr. Kessler, and we retain both of them. All right, it is time, I think, for maybe one more trade. I don't really have a good explanation for why, but it appears the Charlotte Hornets don't really value Brandon Miller very much. He's at an 85 overall. Some of the numbers certainly aren't the greatest in the world. I actually don't mind the shooting splits too much, but he's not, a 25-point-per-game superstar or anything like that. And even if he were to come into a role here, I don't think that's exactly what we would, bring him in for. But the overall is certainly nice to see, and it's only going to go up, of course, as he is only 23. So I know Moses Moody was one of the main pieces we got in the Lauri Markkanen trade to kick off this video, but these kind of things happen, right? You make a trade, you acquire young pieces, You end up flipping them down the line for better players. And I don't even know why I'm explaining that. It's not a realistic rebuild. Who cares? All right. That Warriors pick appears to be very valuable. Do not remove this item. I am just trying to see what it... Okay, wow, just like that. My goal was to not have to give up much else, besides one player. That player ended up, of course, landing us Brandon Miller, and I really am excited about that. So thank you very much for your service, Mr. Moses Moody. And I think, honestly, we're ready to go. I think this team is definitely capable. I will see you guys at the start of the third and final regular season. Last season, we made a huge jump from year one. I don't really think that's going to be the case heading into year three. Of course, 57 wins last year. I'm hoping that we could be 60 plus, though. I think this team is clearly talented enough. We have a lot of really quality depth off the bench, and I just like the vibes of this group, man. I really do. It is Garland, George, Miller, Jackson, and Kessler, Podziemski, Naz Reid, Cody Williams, Isaiah Collier, and Taylor Hendricks. I mean, there's really not a lot of weak spots on this team. I don't really see anything that's glaring, and hopefully we just have enough, star talent, if you will, to actually get a championship. So I'll see you guys at the end of the third season here in Utah. Tyrese Halliburton gets his first career MVP here at the end of our final regular season, but more importantly, we go 64-18, my friends. It is time for a championship here in Utah. Cameron Boozer, Rookie of the Year, he is in Golden State. Jarris Walker, your Sixth Man of the Year. Wemby, your Depoy. Jabari Walker, Most Improved. Paolo Banchero, Clutch Player of the Year. And finally, our guy, Will Hardy, getting the credit he deserves, takes home Coach of the Year. All right, I'm assuming we're the 1 seed. We are only 5 games up on the Portland Trailblazers. They're sneaky good. Take a look over there at the Atlanta Hawks, who are the 1 seed in the East. Okay, some numbers real quick. It was Garland, George, who's just been fantastic for us in this rebuild. Brandon Miller, Jaren Jackson Jr., Reed, Kessler, Williams, Podziemski, Collier, and then Hendricks. Rebounds led by Kessler, and assists was Garland. So once again, the 1 seed. Minnesota is going to be the first round matchup. Of course, Anthony Edwards is fantastic. He is clearly the best player in this series, but I think we are a better team. I'm not going to lie to you. We also have one of their old friends, Mr. Naz Reid. All right, up 3-1. We win in 5. Now moving on to the Houston Rockets, who certainly have a nice, solid young core themselves. They got Thompson, Green, Brooks, Jabari Smith, Şengün, Nolan Traore off the bench, Tari Eason, Cam Whitmore. All right, really good depth there in Houston. I don't know if we're the better team, but hopefully we are. Up 3-2, and we do end up winning in 6. It is now us and the Dallas Mavericks. Obviously, Luka, Kyrie, Quentin Grimes. They brought back Derek Jones Jr. You got Derek Lively, Jaden Hardy, Nikola Vucevic, and Malcolm Brogdon somehow ended up here. All right, quick start for us. Up 3-0 now, and that's the one team we sweep. Gotta love 2K. Darius Garland, your Western Conference Finals MVP, and Halliburton, who just won a regular season MVP, also wins Eastern Conference Finals MVP. This game really loves Tyrese Halliburton. All right, him, Nembhard, Mathurin, Siakam, Turner, Jarris Walker, Clint Capella, Malik Monk. A couple nice additions there on the bench. Starting 5 doesn't change too much. We're up 3-0. Oh my God. Championship, baby. Darius Garland leading us to the promised land. All right. Well, this was the, I guess, Lauri Markkanen Utah Jazz trade rebuild, whatever the hell you want to call it. I don't know what the hell I titled it, but yeah, it's an interesting one. We discussed the possibilities, and although I don't think, a trade for Lauri Markkanen is 100% necessary, I think there are a lot of interested teams, and that's just kind of the way the NBA works these days, right? You don't see as many big names really electing for free agency because not a lot of these teams have a shit ton of cap space anymore. It's just the way the CBA works and all that stuff. So I don't know if Lauri Markkanen is, there's obviously 3 things, right? He could get traded, end up re-upping with a team somewhere else. He could stay with the Utah Jazz, play out his contract, then elect to go to free agency, or he could stay with the Utah Jazz, sign an extension. So I don't know what he wants to do. I don't know what the Utah Jazz want to do. If I had to take a guess, I would say they probably want to trade him and get a lot of draft capital and young pieces in return. But I hope it happens because I like craziness in the NBA and I like movement like that. So hopefully something fun happens soon. I cannot go through the dog days of August with a very quiet NBA schedule, but I'm just blabbering at this point. This one was fun. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know any other video ideas down below in the comment section. As always, thanks so much for watching. I love you guys. I'll catch you guys all in the next one.